Good morning, sir, madam, and my fellow classmates. First of all, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our ESP assessment design. My name is Hashim Mutatipa, and together with my group members, I will present our assessment instrument for tourism students. Our assessment focuses on speaking skills, particularly in the area of restaurant service. Before discussing the assessment, uh, I would like to briefly explain why speaking skills are important in the tourism industry. In tourism and hospitality settings, communication is one of the most essential skills. Employees interact directly with customers from different backgrounds and cultures. Therefore, they must be able to communicate clearly, professionally, and politely. Good communication helps create customer satisfaction, solve problems efficiently, and maintain the reputation of the business. For this reason, our group decided to design an ESP speaking assessment. ESP, or English for Specific Purposes, focuses on language that learners need for a particular profession or field. Unlike general English, ESP emphasizes practical communication that is directly related to the workplace demands. The vocational task we selected is handling a customer complaint. This task requires students to perform a role play in which they act as restaurant staff members. In this scenario, the customer is dissatisfied because the food arrived late and the order was incorrect. The lecturer acts as the customer, while the student acts as the restaurant employee. The student must perform the role play for approximately 2 to 3 minutes and complete several required actions. These include greeting the customer politely, asking about the problem, apologizing appropriately, offering a solution, and responding professionally throughout the interactions. We selected this task because handling complaints is a common and realistic responsibility in restaurant service. Employees are expected not only to understand customers' concern but also to respond in a professional and effective manner. Therefore, this task closely reflects actual workplace in communication. Now, I would like to explain why this assessment can be considered a good ESP assessment by discussing three important principles: authenticity, validity, and washback. First is authenticity. Authenticity refers to how closely an assessment resembles real world situations. Our assessment is highly authentic because it replicates a situation that restaurant employees may encounter in their daily work. Customer complaints occur frequently in the hospital industry, and staff members must be prepared to handle them appropriately. In this assessment, students are not simply answering grammar questions or memorizing vocabulary. Instead, they are participating in a realistic interactions that requires them to communicate naturally and solve a problem. The language used in this task is also authentic. Expressions such as "Good evening," how may I help you?" or "I am very sorry for the inconvenience," or "Could you please explain the problem?" And the last one is, "We will replace your food immediately." Are examples of professional expressions commonly used in restaurant settings. Because students are required to use language in a realistic context, this assessment reflects authentic workplace communication. The second is validity. Validity refers to whether an assessment measures what it is intended to measure. The purpose of our assessment is to evaluate students' professional speaking ability in restaurant service contexts. To achieve this goal, we designed a role play assessment rather than the multiple choice test. A multiple choice test might measure knowledge about language. but it cannot effectively measure a student's ability to interact with customers in real time. Our assessment directly evaluates the skills required in professional communication, including responding complaints, maintaining interaction, and providing solutions. Therefore, the assessments measure actual speaking performance rather than isolated language knowledge. This makes the assessments more valid for the needs of tourism students. Third is washback. Washback refers to the influence of a test on teaching and learning. A positive washback effect, a positive flashback effect occurs when an assessment encourages students to learn useful and meaningful skills. In our case, students know that they will be required to perform a role play involving customer complaints. As a result, they are more likely to practice professional communication, customer service expressions, problem solving strategies, and speaking fluency. Instead of merely memorizing vocabulary lists, students will focus on developing practical communication skills that can be applied in future workplace. Therefore, our assessment promotes positive flashbacks. Next, I would like to explain the scoring rubric that we use to assess student performance. We use an analytic scoring rubric consisting of five criteria. The first criterion is task completion. The criterion evaluates whether students successfully complete all required parts of the task. To receive the highest score, students must greet the customer, identify the problem, apologizing appropriately, offer a solution, and maintain professional communication throughout the interactions. This criterion is important because workplace communication often involves completing specific responsibilities rather than simply speaking fluently. The second criterion is fluency. Fluency refers to smoothness and naturalness of speech. In customer service situations, employees must communicate confidently and efficiently. Excessive pauses or hesitation may affect communication quality and customer satisfaction. Therefore, fluency is an important component of professional speaking ability. The third criterion is accuracy. Accuracy focuses on grammar and language correctness. Although minor mistakes are acceptable, employees should be able to communicate clearly enough to avoid misunderstandings. This criterion ensures that students can use English accurately while maintaining effective communication. The fourth criterion is vocabulary. This criterion specifically evaluates ESP vocabulary related to restaurant service. Students are expected to use appropriate professional expression and industry-related terminology. For, for example, expressions such as customer complaint, replace the order, apologize for the inconvenience, and serve the customer demonstrate professional vocabulary use. This criterion is important because ESB emphasizes specialized language relevant to specific field. The fifth criterion is interaction. Interaction assesses how well students respond to customer and maintain communication. Handling complaints requires active listening, empathy, and appropriate responses. Employees must not only speak but also react appropriately to customer concerns. Therefore, interaction is one of the most important aspects of this assessment. Each criterion is scored from 0 to 4 points, resulting in a maximum score of 20 points. We choose an analytic rubrics rather than a holistic rubrics because it provides more detailed feedback. Students can identify their strengths and weaknesses in specific areas such as fluency, vocabulary, or interaction. Additionally, analytic rubrics improve scoring consistency and fairness. Now, I would also like to discuss the examiner guidelines. To ensure reliability, all students receive the same complaint scenario. The performance time is limited to 2 or 3 minutes. The examiner uses the same rubric for all students and avoid unnecessary interruptions. This procedure help maintain fairness and consistency during the assessment process. Furthermore, reliability is important because assessment results should be consistent across different students and testing occasions. By using clear criteria and standardized procedures, we increase the reliability of our assessment. Finally, I would like to explain why this assessment is beneficial for tourism students. This assessment prepares students for real workplace communication. It develops speaking skills, problem solving abilities, customer service awareness, and professional confidence. Students are encouraged to think critically, communicate effectively, and respond appropriately to customer needs. These are essential competencies for future careers in tourism and hospitality industries. To conclude, our ESP speaking assessment focuses on handling customer complaints in a restaurant service context. The assessment is authentic because it reflects real workplace situations. It is valid because it directly measures professional speaking ability. It creates positive flashback by encouraging meaningful learning. In addition, the analytic rubric provides a fair and detailed evaluation of student performance. Therefore, we believe that this assessment is an effective tool for preparing tourism students for future professional communication demands. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your attentions. We look forward to your questions and feedback.